running full speed, but the markets are faster. Quasar Markets Live brings the world's top financial minds to you. Everything you need to know in one place. Learn from elite educators and gain a competitive edge, leveling the playing field for you. Join the conversation. Quasar Markets Live.
Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. I hope everyone's having a great start to your trading day. Markets are a little muted right now, not a whole bunch going on when it comes to the overall market as a bigger, picture here. We are seeing some nice movement by some stocks that had earnings today or some upgrades, downgrades, all that fun stuff. So we're starting to see the market a little breathing room, here. What I did notice, though, is when I started to look at the pre-market trading here, good amount of stocks above 1.5% to the upside. In fact, this entire page from Celebrate all the way up to Webull up somewhere between 1.5% to 8.65% for Webull here, 6.77% for Pegasystems. Pony AI off of earnings up 6.21. Again, those of you that were listening to me yesterday, I did say I liked buying AI on the dip yesterday. Pony up 6.21%, Rigetti up 5.06%. So these ones have bounced back yesterday, today nicely. And I pointed out that it's just been a mean reversion on these. And man, if you got in those, it's a good trade right now. These things were trading at 11:30 yesterday, 12.66 right now. It was down as low as 11.15, but it was in that 11:30 range that I mentioned at Rigetti yesterday. So, keep that in mind. Some of these laggards, that was my bigger takeaway so far this morning, is I don't see a ton of laggards that I necessarily like I did yesterday with Rigetti and the AI names. Not quite seeing as much, meat on the bone, so to speak, here or there on the laggards this morning. Taking a look, first of all, a lot of them were the health services, health technology. I don't really play in that world. There's just too many different variables that I'm not an expert on, so I'm not a huge there. Ones that are down, Trip.com down about 4.62%. Exchange Tech, which is a Chinese company, so it becomes a little tough there, down about 4%. Although I will say a lot of China is moving up today on good earnings by Bilibili there. MongoDB could be somewhat interesting for a bounce back, or maybe FedEx, but there isn't a whole bunch that's moving tremendously today for me to be able to play that mean reversion or move to the upside. A sector I sort of looked at here that maybe gives you a little bit is the cruise industries, or the Norwegian, Royal Caribbean, and Carnival, all down about 1.5%. So maybe they give a little bounce back opportunity here today. We'll see as the markets start to open. Most of the news today is focused on so far, the tax or the budget bill, right? We see focus. That is sort of the biggest thing in the news today. It hasn't been a whole bunch of talk of tariff. In fact, I see on CNBC, the president's arrived on Capitol Hill to meet with House GOP lawmakers. Reading Wall Street Journal late last night or early this morning, they did mention that he was meeting one-on-one, first of all, with a lot of the lawmakers that were not maybe on board. And then he was going to meet with some caucuses today, or a bigger swath of the Republicans. Looks like what's going to happen there. So that could be the news cycle we see today. The other part of the news cycle today to keep in mind on is Fed speakers are back at it. Today we have, as it says here, Richmond's Fed Tom Barkin, Atlanta's Bostic, St. Louis Fed's Musellem, and Governor Adriana Kugler, all on track to talk today. So they can't help themselves, so we will see that. So far, futures are sort of mixed. NASDAQ futures, like I said, were slightly down. as were the S&P, but the Dow Jones was looking slightly up here going into open. Looking at the tick, it is slightly negative, but advanced declines climbed up a little bit here to 300. Not very high one way or the other, but it has moved up to about 300. DXY, the dollar index, has continued to sort of slide down here today. Not near the lows. It has found a basing, it looks like, at that 100.113 level. In fact, if we blow up the daily chart here, you can see very similar support area today as we saw yesterday. Question is, does that hold? Does it move? We'll see that today. Earnings buzz that we do have moving today, and we'll go through some of these, but Home Depot, they gained about 2.4% here in the pre-market, or were that I did this about an hour ago, so I better pull these up as we're talking. Now it's up about 1.66% here. I had marked off that key area for it here. We can break through this 380 earlier and hold. Nicely gapped above it here on earnings. Retraced right to the top of where we were here on March 6th. So nice move by Home Depot here. It got above the close from yesterday, gapping up to about 385. I do have further breakdowns there. They had an EPS of $3.56 a share, which was a slight miss, but they had a top line revenue beat. They ended up at 39.86 billion, up from about 39.25 consensus. More importantly, they reaffirmed their fiscal year 25 guidance. They're expecting to open 13 new stores. They did say that their foreign exchange had a 70 basis points negative income or impact on comparable sales. So, again, an international company that is, the currency exchange risks, and it hurt them a little bit. CEO confirmed no price increase due to tariffs, as over half of their products are U.S. sourced now. So that was a bigger takeaway from Home Depot there. I didn't really get, I'm looking to see if I have it in my other follow-up here. I didn't see them really talk much so far about if the home builders coming back or anything else. No, just more that stable demand and engaged consumers were anticipated to bode well for them for the second half of 2025. So again, not a huge amount of data there, except for that, the two key things. Forward guidance reaffirmed, going to continue their expansion of stores, and they're going to eat the tariffs. So, and can do so because a good portion of their product line is US based. So, they're, like I said, one of the ones that was moving up a little bit here this morning. Another one I was keeping an eye on here earlier, like I mentioned, was Billy, BILI. They were up, let's see where they are right now. Still up about 3.84% here this morning. And again, they had a really good earnings report. Their Q1 results beat their analyst estimates. Daily active users increased to 106.7 million, up from 102.4 million year over year. Stock gain, like I said, about 3%. EPS and revenue came in strong. User growth reflects increasing engagement on the Chinese video sharing platform, boosting investor confidence. So those things have Billy moving up here today. Trying to see if I have any other context on their earnings here. Not really, but I had them up. One of the reasons that AI names are moving up today is Pony AI reported their earnings this morning. They're up about 6.21% here today on that news. And again, if I break it, theirs down a little bit more, they narrowed their non-GAAP net loss, higher revenue driven by their robotaxi demand. Um, they plan to expand the robotaxi fleet to 1,000 vehicles by year end. Their Uber partnership for the Middle East robotaxi service was also announced. So that had them moving, also had Uber moving up a little bit on that news also. And here I get more info on it. There we go. So their net loss was 43 million, which was up from 20.6 million a year ago. But their total revenue grew 12% year over year to 14 million from 12.52%. Their robotaxi service revenue nearly tripled to 1.7 million. That's a 200% increase, driven by an 800% surge in fare charging revenue. Data expanded operations in tier one Chinese cities and refined user strategies. Their RoboTruck service revenue increased 4.2% to 7.8 million from 7.5, supported by new client contributions. But their gross margin did decline to 16.6 from 21, attributed to a new revenue mix shift with increased sales of autonomous driving controllers for new robot delivery clients. Again, their operational highlights are they're going to expand the fleet to 1,000 vehicles by year end 2025, up from 300, targeting mass production of its seventh generation robotaxis by mid year. And then the Gen 7 autonomous driving system unveiled in April reduced bill of material costs by 70%, enhancing their profitability prospects. Their R&D expenses did surge up to 47.5 million. It's up about 60% year over year. Again, it's into those Gen 7 robotaxis is the reason. And their CEO said that they emphasized 2025 as a year of scaling. His name is James Peng, emphasized that it's a year of scaling with strong revenue growth, signaling momentum towards large-scale communication. And that had Pony AI moving up really nicely from that. Another company that was having a great day so far, Pegasystems, up from my old neck of the woods in Boston. They reported their quarter one results. Their EPS was $1.53, which beat estimates of 49 cents. And you can see they are up tremendously here. Nice move, almost coming back. They're a company that's getting back towards its all-time highs at 113. The interesting to see here as it approaches 106.25 would be the key area that I'm watching here. Could look for a pullback from that area here, on any kind of moves there. What I would point out, though, they were already holding up pretty well at that 98.57, so that would be your support levels are just below 100 here on any kind of pullback. So they've already completed their run up. It looks like to me. We'll see if they can get a little bit more love on the cash open. I did have a little bit more on Pegasystems and what they had going on. Yeah. Big news there was that they are going to be included in the S&P Midcap 400. They're replacing Nordstrom's, and we know that Nordstrom's is going private, so that is why they're pulling out of it. The Nordstrom family and El Puerto de Liverpool closed their thing, so that inclusion boosts the visibility, liquidity, and institutional demand. A lot of ETFs that cover the mid caps. Year to date, they are up about 6%, but over the month, they've gained about 59%. So they've had a big run up already. So some people might have been front loading this from insiders or something that may be new. They did point out that Pega's generative AI blueprint success in automating workflows has transformed customer relationships with strong sales team confidence, and that their EPS growth was 728% quarter over quarter, and sales up 44%, reflect robust demand. 643 funds currently hold Pega, a 1.66 increase in institutional interest. president is speaking, so I want to take a quick look at the ticket and everything here, see if anything's moving tremendously. No, it's not doing too much yet. So Trump economy is doing great is the headline on CNBC. And again, he's going to be on the Hill today, so it could be a fairly explosive day overall when it comes to the markets. Some other things I wanted to hit on before the open here to keep an eye on. Excuse me. Viking Holdings is one that has dropped a little bit here. Screen, pull up Viking. And they're down about 6.58%. They did. Sorry, I'm trying to find my note on here. There they are. They had a Q1 loss of about 24 cents a share on revenue of 897 million. That did beat analyst expectations. They were expected to lose about 30 cents a share and only on 841 million in revenue. Their strong Q1 performance but stock decline suggests the investor caution. Their earnings call has happened here, but I wasn't able to listen in on that. I might have notes on that though. Here I asked it to look for. Not really. I don't have any other real key notes on it that I'm seeing. Let's try here. Oh, here we go. Not really much other information here on that. I will say, sticking in robo-taxi and sort of that sector, I'm a big fan of that sort of sector. I do think it's going to be very important. WeRide. Up about 3.74% here this morning. Not a huge move, but a significant move, in my opinion. And part of that is that they announced a partnership with Tencent Cloud, the cloud business of Tencent Holdings, to advance large-scale robotaxi commercial operations and develop smart driving solution for international markets. I guess my takeaway is it really does seem, although there was also news today, but Tencent, is China is definitely leading when it comes to autonomous driving. And they are definitely going to look to continue to keep just putting the pedal to the metal, no pun intended there, in this race here. And it will be interesting because Tesla was thought to be the leader, right? Just a year ago, probably, when it came to autonomous driving. And now you've got WeRide, Waymo, Pony AI, and just a bunch of others that have probably passed them. I mean, I don't think probably they have passed them. So we'll see how this does play out. But so far, this is one where China is taking the lead. And unlike AI, where I do think America is going to be the leader in AI, based on the fact that that their EV vehicles are, in my opinion, much superior to what we see here and in Europe. And then you add in the robo-taxi part to it and the self-driving ability and the way that their regulations can be top-down pushed on corporations. I think that they're going to be a little bit in the advantage there. We're about 8 minutes from the open. Advanced decline has gone positive about 332, so it's continuing to slightly tick to the upside. Q's still down about 30 basis points. SPY down about 15 basis points here before the open. If we look at the Spider Select here, Mixed bag. Energy slated to open slightly up. Utilities and tech to the downside. Consumer staples slightly up. Industrials and communications slightly down. Healthcare slightly up. So actually, I had a banner on that too. I thought I did. Okay. Bitcoin holding up about 104,755 here, continuing to slide down. As I mentioned, it just we had a big sell wall at that 106 area. We did see it slightly get pulled away, and it allowed some breathing room up to 107. But since we hit 107, we've seen a pretty decent retracement here. Anything below this 104.5, and we're looking for a bigger retracement back. In fact, those that use Sadie levels, ATR levels, Sadie ATRs is already triggered a downside buy here, with targets at 102,779 and 103,883. So they've already triggered it. Another thing we got to talk a little bit about here, Jamie Dimon. Yesterday was JP Morgan's investor day, and he spoke and he said that he expressed concerns about investor complacency amid various risks, including inflation, credit spreads, and geopolitical tensions. He emphasized that markets may be underestimating the potential for elevated inflation and stagflation. And Diamond noted also that credit spreads are not adequately reflecting the risks of a potential economic downturn. I mentioned this yesterday with Mr. Flanagan, right? That he was one of the people that was sort of bucking the White House and saying it how he feels and not listening to their sort of rhetoric or phone calls coming from commerce secretaries or from the president himself saying, hey, please stop it, like we saw with Walmart and some other companies. Jamie Dimon's been pretty quick and to the point, and he's still feeling that we have more pain in front of us there. And it's one of the reasons that I still stay a little bit more conservative than others, as you guys know on this show and other shows, when it comes to the market recovery. I do think we've got a little bit more consolidation. We've got room to the downside, just like we do to the upside, whereas we had much more momentum, or the path of least resistance, in my opinion, was previously to the upside. I think with the few jumps that we've had, now we're equally weighted where you have risk to both sides. So traders just need to be nimble. And I will mention, like I said, from those AI trades, mean reversion trades and mean reversion algos seem to be really at work. And you can really see it on Bitcoin, where I was watching the 5-minute chart yesterday, and it was following linear regression, basically to a T. You can see it. It's still following it really well here. That's on the 5-minute. I had it down even to the minute. And let me hide this. And it was following to a T linear regression. And those are algos pretty much pushing it to that. So algos seem to be pushing the crypto market so far before the cash open. Right now, the bears definitely have the market moving its way. Didn't look to see what liquidations have looked like overnight. Give me 1 second here. Yeah, liquidations well down, only $250 million. And I don't make light of it, but that's down 65% since yesterday. And what we see is about 93 million in longs that got liquidated and about 138 million in shorts. So the bulls did take a little bit of money back from the bears, which you might think is funny because, again, the market's been moving down while that happens, right? A big part of that is traders that get just too aggressive, and they become easy picking for these algos, to play that the mean reversion game, and liquidate them because they're using too much leverage. So now is not the time when markets volume is down a little bit to be playing with too much leverage, because there is no reason for them not to search you out. I mentioned again, Uber actually, here in the U.S., they're working with Waymo on self-driving, was up about 1% here this morning on this news after being up close to a percentage point yesterday. That does have us at 52-week highs, and I believe it's all-time highs for Uber. So continuing to move to the upside here. Yeah, can't argue with that. Just nice move to the upside here by them. Tick slightly negative here. We're about a minute from the open. We'll keep it on this here. We'll get on the cues here for the open. We'll say quickly before we get to the open, Mag 7 outside of Tesla, which again, mean reversion yesterday was the one that was down the most, 2.25, up 1.7 today. They are all down, with NVIDIA being down 1%, being the biggest laggard so far today. Not really any news driving that either. So that could be one here that you could look for a little buy this morning. Okay, here we go. Not quite there. It is. We are open. First tick is slightly negative. Advanced decline move, though, negative 1124. So a lot of the stocks that don't trade, seeing a little bit of a sell off. We see the Qs jump down, now down almost a half a percentage point here. You can see that move to the downside here that kicked in. Getting bought right back. So again, algos, look at that, right to the bottom of the linear regression. Bought it right back to the middle of the linear, right to the mean point. Now trying to break to the upside. So again, as I mentioned, algos, that's algo, just buying. And you might say those aren't big moves, but when they're doing thousands of them a day, they only need to make pennies. Let's see, SPY's moving back up pretty quickly here. Again, its first move was down. So the first moves were down. And we'll see what we get from there. Bitcoin on the open 104,600. So it didn't move very much there. Gold at 32.38. Seeing some buying here over the last 10-15 minutes on gold. So a little bit moves there. Bitcoin sliding slightly, but not really. Dow Jones pretty flat here. In fact, completely flat on the day so far now. SPY's down a quarter of a point. Q's down half a point. So tech getting hit. And if we look, that tech hit is mostly happening across the Mag 7, with NVIDIA, like I said, down about a percentage point. And most of the others outside of Tesla down about a half a percentage point. Tesla is up 2.35. Let's see what's happening to the pre-market gainers. We both seen a little bit of a sell-off. Pega's holding up pretty well here. I think they were up. Yeah, Pega's holding up pretty well here in this level. Rigetti holding up pretty well. Same thing. Pony got a little bit of a pullback, now trying to recover from there. Billy's seeing a little, so we're seeing a little bit of a sell-off across these. Coinbase has seen a little bit of a sell-off here this morning. It had been up nicely in the pre-market, now almost flat on the day. So we are seeing some sell-off there. On the laggards that we were looking at here this morning, they're all about the same. Nothing really moved tremendously one way or the other there. Marvell, again, what has moved actually, NCLH now down 3%. Airbnb down 2.45, RCL down 2. So you could get an opportunity for a buy the dip on some of those today. You could be interested in a Marvell. Some of those, like I said, the cruise lines there. We'd have to ask BigBeat, who's cruising himself, if what's going on there. We're gonna get a channel check from him. Banks down slightly, like we said. JP Morgan and Jamie Dimon saying we still have a little bit of rough sailing in front of us. Chips are also down here, all of them. I said Marvell's the big loser so far. Crypto stocks getting hit a little bit here too today. Not too surprising. They had moved up pretty nicely here over the last couple of days. So MSTR at 410 here. Again, anything over 400 for me keeps me positive. It's actually anything above that 395 area keeps me positive here. On that, Coinbase down slightly here. Mara back below 16 could start to give an opportunity for a position in there. Galaxy Digital was one of the bigger gainers here this morning. Take a look here. The tick still negative about 200. Advanced decline down about 1,700. Dixie's holding steady at that 100.41. Dow Jones has slid down about 10 basis points here. SPY down 27. Qs. So pretty muted so far. Qs right at that 519 level here. So far, the bears are controlling the market. Again, most of the news that will matter today will be based upon what comes out of Capitol Hill. So that will be where you're going to keep your eyes on. We are seeing Dominion Energy, First Solar, Tesla, and Eversource Energy, some of the main leaders here this morning. Let's see what else is pumping here. Seeing First Solar now up 4%. So again, solar was down yesterday. That was when we talked about you could look at also for a bounce back. So, these sectors that get beat up for sort of no reason, especially when they get beat up across a sector like I'm seeing today with the cruise lines, are ones that I tend to like here. They're down about 3.92. Another crypto name, they're down a little bit. Clean Spark down 2.9. As I said, Norwegian down 2.71, starting to already get a little bit of love. Airbnb down 269. That one is another one you can look at here. Okay. Let's see what else we get here. Tick slightly negative, continuing to minus 232. Advanced decline has been just steadily falling a little bit here. So we are seeing, the start of a slow day. I will mention we saw a start of a slow day yesterday, and then we just picked up throughout the day. Let's see if we get that kind of movement here today, or do we actually see our first little, pullback day here? See what else comes up here. Still sliding down a little bit here. Again, though, not too far from where we were yesterday. Trump says GOP is unified as he delivers pep talk for his big, beautiful bill. So let's see what we get there. That could be the news that would help. Trump has urged blue state Republicans to take the SALT deal that Johnson offered them last night and said they should blame their governors for having bad tax policy. That deal, which we scooped this morning, would cap SALT reductions at 40,000, so higher than they wanted. They are at 10, so I mean it does move. Iran's Khamenei slams outrageous U.S. demands in nuclear talks. It does seem like the news is sort of just hitting us negative, and then a little bit more negative, and then a little bit more negative, pushing us a little bit lower here this morning as it does. Okay, everybody, we are actually going to end a little bit early here today. I have an appointment I have to head out to here. So everybody have a fantastic trading day, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.